Oh ho buddies, welcome to Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. Last time, Yua suddenly bombarded Takumi at his home base, saying that he is Shogun. She knows it. She got the final proof from Suwa. Suwa is clearly manipulating Yua from behind the scenes. Let's carry on and see if we can convince Yua that actually she's wrong. I'm guessing we're not going to be able to though. Let's find out. So last time my words had gone in one ear and out the other. She refused to listen to me. She was completely convinced that she knew the truth. There was no point resisting. Come out, Shogun. Come out now. Didn't I tell you to come out? Why aren't you coming out? I know you're in there. I will make you come out, Shogun. And I will never let you until I do. Never let you go until I do. I'll never give up. Never. Oh, no, off she goes. Suddenly, Yua stood up and went to close the open container door. She slowly picked the padlock up off the floor and used it to lock the door shut. And then she stashed the key in the pocket of her uniform. Why was she doing this? What was she thinking? I will never let you go. A faint murmur, spoken to no one but herself, one that chilled me to the bone. Oh. Of the countless fast food restaurants located throughout Shibuya, every single one was always packed front to back with young people. It took a lot of courage for a lone, middle-aged man to come to a place like this. After all, he'd be sure to stick out like a sore thumb. Those were the thoughts circulating in Ban Yasuji's mind. Yasuji? Is that his name? As he sipped his coffee, surrounded on all sides by young people, chattering away, the drink in his paper cup had already started to go cold. A single clear file folder sat on a table in front of him. Inside it was a handful of photocopied documents from the investigation files, many of which were adorned with Ban's countless sticky notes. Why are those notes so sticky, Ban? Ban had arrived at the restaurant about an hour ago, the location where he planned to personally re-examine the file's contents. As for why he had chosen such a busy place like this, he'd been removed from the New Gen investigation team a few days prior, but he still wished to independently run background checks on all relevant persons. The copy of the report from Ban was sifting through, which was never intended to leave the police station. The copy of the report that Ban was sifting through, which was never intended to leave the police station, had a few images attached to it. One photograph depicted one of the victims of the first New Gen incident, the group dive. A girl named Kusunoki Miya. Ban's interest had been piqued the previous day when he'd met with Miya's older sister, Kusunoki Yua. After hearing Yua describe Miya's personality, he decided to investigate further. At first, he was also looking into rumours from around Shibuya, such as the high school girl with a sword, but in the end, every lead turned up cold. That is, except for Miya. And after reading through the documents again and again, he still felt like something was off. There was a lot of information which seemed trivial at best, or at the very least not directly related to the case. But after putting the pieces together, something felt out of place. And when Ban had heard Yua's story yesterday, that feeling had crept up on him all the more. After all, there was something in the file that Ban could not ignore. A pair of glasses was found among the possessions of Kusunoki Miya, one of the group dive participants. That was the detail that rubbed Ban the wrong way. He took a look at a list of notes taken from various interviews conducted during the investigation. Taking another sip of coffee, Ban let out a befuddled grunt. From her birth all the way until her death, there was not a single photograph of Kusunoki Miya wearing glasses. It was her sister, Kusunoki Yua, that wore them. Interesting. He'd even gone so far as to obtain access to Kusunoki Miya's medical records. Sure enough, she'd boasted perfect 20/20 vision, and thus had no need for glasses. So was it really that Yua had died? What does that mean? Kozunuki Miya had been a quiet girl with an interest in anime, quite the contrast to her happy-go-lucky sister. Oh, and Yua has an interest in anime and also likes the Seratan figurines and stuff like that. So is it actually Miya? That all matched up with the description Kozunuki Yua had given. While the 5 victims of the group dive were friends, some reports suggested that their encounter on the rooftop was the first time they'd ever met. Allegedly, they were online friends who'd gotten together for an offline meeting. Naturally, their online activity was heavily scrutinized as a part of the investigation. But there were never any signs of suicidal tendencies displayed by the victims. Furthermore, several hours before the group dive, 2 high school girls, who appeared to be twins, had been spotted walking into a fast food restaurant in Shibuya. Ban took a look around. He was sitting in the very same fast food restaurant mentioned in the report. Before sitting down, Ban had also taken the time to speak with one of the restaurant's employees. The employee had told him that the 2 girls had chatted for a while, then proceeded to take a 10-minute bathroom break. What on earth could have taken them so long in there? Ban wondered. He stared intently at the woman's restroom, which caught him the scornful glare of every young girl nearby. Realizing this, Ban flashed a wry smile before returning his gaze back toward the streets outside the window. Excruciating hours had passed since Yua had raided my container. My hands had been tied behind my back and around the leg of my loft bed. Fortunately, I'd been tied sitting down, so it wasn't too exhausting. Unfortunately, the rope coiled around my wrists was constantly digging into them, which was fairly painful. I somehow managed to doze off for around 3 hours during that time, but it didn't do me any good. I was still very sleepy, likely due to the fact that no one could get any half-decent sleep like this. Damn it. I wasn't into this S&M shit at all. If only I could hit decline on this RP invite. Yua was still sitting on the sofa, watching me. She'd be doing so all night. She really had been putting her all into it. She did nothing else the entire time. Did she ever sleep? What was she even trying to accomplish here to begin with? Yua was convinced that I had DID, but I knew that wasn't true. She could wait like that all she wants. But Shogun would never come out. She hadn't gagged me and actually allowed me to speak right after she tied me down. Of course, I'd taken full advantage of that to voice the above thoughts over and over again, but they just went in one ear and out the other. After a few hours of trying to change her mind, I realized how obstinate she really was, and so I just gave up. And after that... You created Shogun. You are Shogun. He is simply a mechanism for you to escape reality. Shogun is none other than you. Yourself. But at the same time, he is his own separate existence. Another you that exists within you. The embodiment of your dark side. An existence crafted to protect your fragile mind. Your madness. You are a murderer that takes pleasure in every kill. One who doesn't care about the who. You don't like them as a band. You think they suck. One who doesn't care about the how. The cover band for the Who. One who exists just to kill. And it doesn't matter who you kill, does it? Does it? Why did you choose Miya? Answer me. Answer me now. Please, answer me. I want you to answer. You need to answer, or else. Yua kept mumbling her pathological ramblings over and over and over again, never coming up for air. My room was extremely small. My only means of covering my ears, my hands were tied up, so I had no choice but to listen. I thought I was going insane. On top of that, I felt as if I'd only gotten to experience the tip of the iceberg. I started trying to think of a way to escape. I tried pulling the toilet card to weigh my chances of getting out of here, but it didn't work. She did untie my hands and allow me to go, but she followed me very closely. She stood right behind me the entire time, never taking her eyes off of me, even when I was doing my business. And to make matters worse, she even continued spouting those insane ramblings of hers from behind my back. How long was this shit going to go on for? I couldn't even get some actual sleep because who knows when this bitch was going to snap and kill me out of nowhere. Then again, even if I was awake, I wasn't confident I'd be able to defend myself anyway. What triggers it? What does it take to make you come out? Physical pain? Psychological pain? Sexual urges? Invoking trauma? Or is it simply bad chance? Yua's murmurs suddenly came to a stop, but even then she was still glaring at me. The room had become dead silent, and yet, given the circumstances, the stillness only served to make me even more tense. Suddenly, the sound of a stomach growling broke the silence. I hadn't had anything to eat or drink, so I was obviously hungry, but that still hadn't been me just now, which meant that Yua was hungry too. Moreover, I was sure I'd heard a stomach growling, but Yua's lack of reaction almost made me reconsider. Normal girls, Sarah-tan for example, would have had a way cuter reaction. Yeah, she'd most likely say something like this. What? It ain't my fault. Yeah, I'm so hungry I could eat a horse, but I've been trying so hard to hold it in, so it's only natural. Huh? You want to know why? Well, last time you said I'd put on a couple of pounds. But it's not like I went on a diet because you told me that or anything. Don't take it the wrong way, you big dum-dum. What a classic Sunday. What a classic Sunday. As transparent as a glass window. Sarah, you're so cute when you get mad and blush like that, Sarah. Damn it. The situation I was in was really making me want to escape into my delusions. Don't you want to eat? Yua's tone was as ice cold as ever. As I was still sitting, she lowered her gaze down to my feet. A plate had been placed in front of them. It was a plate full of pasta. Tarraco spaghetti to be precise, served with a finely cut seaweed garnish. However, it had already been sitting there for around 2 hours, so the pasta probably was all dry and sticky by now. Yua had made it for me. She'd tied me up and left me without saying a word, then came back about 30 minutes later with a heaping plate of pasta. It would seem she'd gone to the supermarket, bought the ingredients, then cooked them into a pasta for me outside of the container house. What was she plotting by making me her home-cooked meal? I couldn't wrap my head around it. She could have just bought me something that was ready-made at the convenience store. Maybe she'd poisoned it. The thought made me want to stay as far away from it as possible. Besides, it wasn't like I could eat it even if I wanted to. My hands were tied up, and the plate was at my feet. You can have it. Remembering that Yua's stomach had growled, I gave that sarcastic retort. I don't plan on torturing you physically. I'm simply waiting for Shogun to come out. So, please eat. It'd be problematic if you don't. Eat. Do you really think I could eat in a situation like this? Don't be ridiculous. Yua stood up, walked up to me, and then she crouched down next to me. I looked away in fear, still holding on to the hope that she'd untie that rope coiled around my hands. But of course that wasn't what happened. Instead, Yua picked up the plate, struggled to twirl the dry as hell sticky pasta with a fork, and then once she finally managed to, she held it out to my mouth. Here. No, I'm not eating that shit. Okay, open wide. Say ah! And its variants were events you could only experience in a Rouge. This was real life. When things were this tense, all her feeding me did was highlight her murderous intent all the more. At least untie me if you're going to do shit like this. At least if I was untied, I could pretend to eat some and go, "Yep, this tastes like shit, take it away. Thanks. Okay, thanks." But here I wasn't even afforded that. Shall I warm it up in the microwave? I just said I'm not going to eat it. I thought about knocking the plate out of her hand with my knee, but if I did that, she'd definitely get pissed, and there was no telling what she'd do next. The thought sent chills down my spine, so in the end I decided to hold back the urge. Please understand, Nishijou-kun. I'm doing this not just to protect everyone else, but to save you too. I never, ever wanted to hurt you. The fuck are you talking about, Yua? Are you stupid? You want to die? Who the hell did she think she was? She wanted to save me. Sure, it was true that New Gen Shogun and all that stuff scared the living shit out of me, and that I desperately wanted someone to save me. But that someone was clearly excluding Yua. I never asked to be subjected to this crazy bitch's delusions. Eat. Eat. Even if you have to force yourself. There was cold pasta twirled around the fork. Yua shoved it toward my mouth. You can eat, can't you? Yua moved even closer, still glaring at me to no end. Eat! Please! Eat! Suddenly, Yua stopped dead in her tracks. Why did this bitch come closer and closer every time she got mad? I kept looking away and clamped my mouth shut. She must have been insane if she thought I'd ever eat something she made. I'd end up with fucking food poisoning. An hour or so had passed. My stomach was still growling. I was so scared that I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. Eat. Eat now. Didn't I tell you to eat? Eat. Yua was still crouching down next to me, staring at me, and she was still trying to shove the pasta down my throat too. She'd stayed there for the entire time, in the exact same position. Eat. Please eat. You need to eat. Eat. I want you to eat. Eat. Eat it. Eat. It's safe to eat. Eat it up. Eat. She just kept on making her demands in a series of low murmurs, refusing to do anything else. I had a feeling that another hour had passed already. I was so creeped out. I couldn't even lift a finger. I was petrified. I was a deer perpetually stuck in the headlights. She hadn't hurt me or anything, and she hadn't forced me to eat the pasta either. And yet somehow I felt more and more afraid of Yua with each passing moment. She was simply waiting for me to eat and nothing else. And yet, I was still scared shitless. A normal person would never give up after about 5 minutes, but not Yua. No, Yua had kept at it for over an hour. If this were a normal conversation, a normal version of this kind of thing, Yua would pull my hair, force my mouth open and scream at me to eat it, you scum. Well, she didn't, so I didn't have the slightest clue what the hell she was thinking. She was a total freak. She was broken. No sane person could do what she was doing. She wasn't human. She couldn't be. I'm scared. I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared, I'm scared. I was at rock bottom. I wanted to kneel down and beg for her forgiveness. My entire body was covered in thick, disgusting sweat. I was enduring so much anguish mentally that I could hardly breathe. I didn't know what to do. I'd never had a girl stare at me from this close, and for this long before, but who the hell has? If we were a couple, having some lovey-dovey conversation while we rubbed our noses together or some shit, that'd be fine, but no. No. You just kept on repeating the same shit over and over again like a goddamn broken record. But this broken record never stopped fucking glaring at me. How was this even real? Eat! Eat it! Eat! Now! Eat! Please! Eat! F. I couldn't deal with her gaze on me any longer, so I dared to squeeze out a single word. My voice had gone hoarse. Fine. Yua's murmurs stopped. She remained completely still, in the same posture as before. Ugh. I forced my mouth open. I nervously ate the pasta that she'd been trying to feed me for over an hour. My mouth was already dry to begin with, and eating this withered pasta definitely didn't help. It just sucked away any remaining moisture I had left. I couldn't bear the taste, so I almost didn't chew at all as I choked the pasta down. Yua blinked a few times, surprised to see me actually eating, and like a statue, come to life, she started moving again. Does it taste good? No, it doesn't taste good at all, I thought to myself, but there was no way I could say that to her face, so I just gave a weak nod instead. I'm glad to hear it. Despite what she said, Yua still had the most deadpan expression on her face. I couldn't detect even the slightest bit of happiness. She moved the fork back toward the plate she was holding, and with it she picked up another clump of dry, sticky pasta and held it out to my mouth once again. Did I really have to eat all of it? Would she not let me go otherwise? Give me a break already. Tears started flowing from my eyes. I couldn't hold them anymore. I was just too scared. And yet, no matter how hard I cried, Yua didn't seem to care. She'd keep on doing this until I finished the entire plate. So I ate, tears endlessly streaming down my face, and she kept on feeding me that dry, shitty pasta. By the time I'd finished all of it, I was both physically and mentally exhausted. Are you full now? You're full, aren't you? You should be full now. Good. Then the time I spent making this for you was worth it. In contrast to what she said, Yua's tone was cold as ice. Then, at last, she took a small step from me, placed the plate on my desk, and sat back down on the sofa. After sitting down, she looked in my direction and went back to staring at me. And as she stared, she stopped moving. Don't look at me, goddammit. Please, stop looking at me. I did nothing but chant those words over and over inside my head, but I couldn't say them out loud. I was too scared. Was she really going to monitor me for an entire day? This was straight up psychological torture. Just the mere thought of it made me even more depressed. Why are you doing this? I was crying now, but I couldn't help but ask that. I needed to know. What did I do to you? My younger sister died. Huh? Younger sister? For a split second, Yua looked like she was about to cry, only to quickly reassume her ice-cold expression. She was one of the group dive victims. We were twins, and she was the younger one. Her name was Mia. I'll never let the murderer who killed my sister get away with it. That's the promise I made to myself. And then, I found you. I learned about your suffering. I want to find out why my sister was killed. I want to know the truth. I want to know why the culprit, why Shogun, killed her. And I also want to save you. Please understand. You understand, right? You should understand. I'm sure you understand. I thought back to the video of the group dive that had been uploaded to YouTube. Had one of the crying victims in that video been Yua's younger sister? I knew full well that what Yua was going through. The same kind of thing had happened recently with Nanami after all. But that didn't mean I could forgive what she was doing right now. This crazy bitch had broken into my house, tied me up, and now she was holding me captive. Yeah. No way in hell could I ever feel sympathy for her after all that shit. I'd completely lost track of time. My room had no windows, after all. I had no way to tell what time it was. What does "whose eyes are those eyes" mean? Why did you have the people you were about to kill say that? Why was it left as a dying message? What were you trying to convey? Usually I just checked the time on my phone or my PC. Not that there were any other ways to do so, but since I was still tied to the leg of the bed, I obviously couldn't use either method. The only chance I got to check the time was whenever I went to the bathroom, but even then it was a pretty small window. But the longer this torture lasted, the harder it was for me to get up and use the toilet. I simply didn't feel the urge to piss, likely because I wasn't drinking enough water. It felt as if I'd been deprived of all physiological phenomena for over a day now. Why Darth Spider? What were you trying to accomplish by wearing that character's helmet? Does it bear some kind of religious significance? Do you aspire to be an anti-hero? Or do you just want to make a mockery of public opinion? Yua practically didn't move an inch. She simply continued sitting on the sofa, standing up every once in a while only to sit back down right after. And her muttering hadn't stopped the entire time. How is she still talking after this long? It wasn't like I could kill time on my PC, nor could I make any calls or send any messages. I couldn't even sleep. All I could do was sit there, and be assaulted endlessly with questions. Yua's mumblings was starting to sound like a mantra or something at this point. I couldn't stand being watched for this long. Sure, I had to cope with Shogun reading my mind, and the sensation of being observed by the gaze. But while those things did suck, I could still at least stomach them. But I wish I could say the same about Yua's unending watch. Her gaze was so utterly devoid of any emotion or warmth that it genuinely felt as if I wasn't even there, like my very existence itself was constantly being ignored, if not outright denied by her. Regardless, the point is that I knew nothing about what was going on in the outside world, and I wouldn't. No, couldn't as long as I was tied up. I'd lost all perception of time. I didn't know how many days had passed since I'd been tied up. I had a feeling that 2 days or so had gone by, but it sure as hell felt more like a month. Being deprived of my freedom of movement was really stressful. Every minute of however many hours had passed, I'd think to myself, I need to look at a clock. That was the sole thing on my mind. Or perhaps... Yua's head suddenly tilted. She took off her glasses and rubbed her eyelids that occulted her bleary eyes. She was only human. I'd imagine she was finally starting to get tired. She hadn't caught a wink of sleep the entire time, after all. Maybe she should have thought this through before doing it. She was just wasting her time. Nothing would come of any of this. This never would have happened if she just listened to me. When are you going to come out? Her whispers were practically delirious. Come out. She must have still been thinking about Shogun. How can I get you to come out? Won't you come out? Unfortunately for you, he won't come out no matter how much you plead, because he's not there to begin with. I will keep waiting. I will wait. When silence took over the room once more, Yua's body slowly tilted over. She just collapsed. With all her strength gone, she fell to her side on the sofa. Had she fallen asleep? Had her batteries finally run out? I breathed a sigh of relief, and all the tension in my body released along with it. I hadn't had even a single moment to relax the entire time she'd been staring at me. And now that she wasn't, I could finally take it easy for a bit. Taki, why aren't you using your noggin here? Seratan's voice rang out from beside my monitor. Isn't this your chance to skedaddle? Maybe you could even turn the tables here and tie her up instead. She's completely defenseless. And then you can do whatever you want with her, you big dum-dum. Oh, I see. So I can degrade her and train her into becoming the perfect sex slave. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yua was still lying on the sofa, so I took a nervous glance at her face. To be honest, if I ignored everything else, her sleeping face was actually pretty cute. It reminded me of when we first met, that gentle smile that she'd had. I obviously didn't know what Yua had been thinking back then, nor that she'd seen me as a murderer. If anything, I saw her as an enemy of one of Shogun's underlings. But it was her fault for making me think that. She was the one who deceived me, who'd betrayed me. So if I wanted to degrade her and turn her into a sex slave, this bitch had no right to complain. And we're going to see exactly if that's what Takumi's going to do next time on Borderlands Games. I hope he isn't, because that would be weird. Thanks for watching this episode of Chaos Head. I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye, 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 bye.